Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my podcast, Anxietea, a mental health podcast, where I give you mental health stories, self care tips and techniques, advice, and whatever you all want me to discuss. As a reminder and disclaimer that I am not a mental health professional, just a mental health advocate getting through life one day at a time. Here is also the warning that there may be sensitive topics discussed within this podcast, so please feel free to leave if this does not sound like the podcast for you. I will not be offended. So, without further ado, welcome to episode 12. Let's grab our tea, take a sip in of some self love, and exhale the stresses of life. Today I am drinking raspberry iced tea, and I can't believe we're already on our 12th podcast. It has been such a pleasure doing these podcasts for me and for anyone that is listening. So, for today's podcast, I actually wanted to discuss and touch upon another mental illness that may not be addressed as often, which is addiction. This topic is definitely a sensitive topic, but I think that it is very important to be aware of addiction and end the stigma associated with addiction. Although I do not struggle with addiction myself, I am a supporter for those with an addiction that wish to get better and have close friends and families that struggle with addiction and substance abuse. So, that being said, I do have family members and close friends that struggle with addiction. It is important to realize that these people are not stupid, they are not monsters, and they are not scary or crazy. They are people. It is important to notice the signs and understand how to help those with addiction. First, you have to understand how those with an addiction think and read up about more information. You can find unbiased information on drugs and ways to help your loved one through a quick Google search for websites such as SAMHA's National Helpline, which is SAMHA, which stands for Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, AmericanAddictionCenters.org, DrugFree.org, and RecoveryAnswers.com. No. RecoveryAnswers.org. There we go. You can also talk to your loved one for more information that is more specific on their personal take on their illness, because each circumstance is personalized and very, very different. I also want to mention that addiction is not a choice. It is a mental illness, it is hereditary, and it is a disease, and needs to be treated just like mental illnesses and other diseases. Including the words illness, disease, and addiction have negative connotations to them, making people think that those with these struggles are crazy or scary, but these words are not meant to be taken as though the person is crazy or scary, but that the struggle itself is scary and is difficult to deal with. Let's discuss what is included within the sources that I mentioned, starting with the SAMHA's National Helpline. It is free and confidential and provides a phone number on the website that operates 24/7 every day in order for loved ones to talk to a professional and ask questions and discuss your concerns. I know a lot of family members that do not take the time to read up about information regarding addiction until it is too late, and may first learn about information from going to rehab to support their loved ones. The website is not counseling, however, it includes information on the website, such as booklets on information on how to help their loved ones. The website also mentions the effectiveness of family therapy, how addiction occurs, and information on aftercare after an emergency situation, if that were to happen. The next website, AmericanAddictionCenters.org, includes a guide for family members that have a sibling, significant other, parent, or child dealing with addiction. Addiction is mentioned as a disorder and gives statistics on addiction. It goes through common questions, the first one being whether you know if your loved one has a substance abuse disorder or not. The website also mentions certain habits and signs of addiction and why those with the disorder behave the way that they do. The website also discusses how to help and help them find treatment and explains what enabling is, which is a major word within the addiction world. Drugfree.org is a website that helps those with a substance abuse problem and family members that want to seek more information regarding addiction, such as whether someone needs to identify if they themselves are an addict and what to do if you think you may have a disorder. It mentions the importance of getting help early and recognizing the symptoms before it becomes a severe problem. The website also goes through how to intervene with a loved one that you suspect might have an addiction disorder. Along with this, it provides information for family members to try to help their loved one understand that they need help. Treatment options are also available within the website, as well as what to do when there is an emergency dealing with a loved one's addiction. And lastly, for our last website, on recoveryanswers.org, I repeat, that is recoveryanswers.org, as I messed up in the beginning. The website is exactly what it says. It provides answers to questions regarding recovery and addiction. It includes a guide for family members and mentions statistics regarding addiction, just like the other websites. The website also provides information about the stigma, issues, and emotional factors regarding addiction. It includes ways to support your loved one going through an addiction, including therapy, training, education, and helping their loved one receive self-care. There is also support information through creation of boundaries and being aware of triggers, as well as ways to intervene. I feel as though this website has a lot of relevant information, and the website is actually very, very easy to use, and it has all sorts of pictures and visuals, as well as more specified information on how to help your loved ones. So I think this website is a really great tool. Along with reading up on information about addiction and what it is, please, please, please look up the statistics to learn that addiction happens so often but can still be overlooked because of society's views on substances. This information can be very eye-opening for those that are unfamiliar with addiction. The occurrence of addiction and substance-related deaths, or even indirect deaths due to substance abuse, such as car-related fatalities from being drunk or on another substance behind the wheel, is also very telling. The amount of people that you know or can run into that may have the addictive gene or have the addiction disorder is astonishing. I can create podcasts being more specific on these types of statistics as well, but this specific episode for today's podcast is more of a generalized way to help those that may need to read up or are having difficulty knowing what to do now or finding sources. Next, become an advocate and support system for your loved one struggling with addiction disorder. Go to support groups with them, or even by yourself, write a blog, talk to others, get advice from those in a similar circumstance, anything to get the message out there and to normalize addiction. If your loved one is in rehab, see if the rehab has a family program to attend, and you can listen and communicate to families and sponsors, which is very comforting to know that your loved one is not alone, as well as you are not alone as a family member being affected by a loved one with addiction. Please do not yell at your loved one or tell them that their addiction is their fault, because addiction is a disorder and a disease, not of anyone's fault. Create a safe environment for your loved one as well, and make sure that the environment is free from toxicity or triggers. That is very important. Another way to help your loved one is to learn about the stigma behind addiction and its prevalence among our society. It is important to be an advocate and try to end the stigma through providing relevant and correct information. Be the person to provide and bring that correct information to the surface, rather than allowing the stigma to circulate. Providing information that is true is so important for ending the stigma, as well as sharing your stories with others. A lot of people trigger addictive behavior and partake in addictive behaviors to glamorize the use of substances. But once someone is addicted, they are considered an outcast and quote unquote disgusting, which is absolutely terrible. How people are not self-aware and how they cannot see how they are feeding into the stigma rather than deglamorizing substances and becoming aware of addiction triggers. So please provide a safe environment for your loved one and be that safe space for them. Next, it is best to find ways to talk to your loved one, intervene, and find the help that they need. If you feel as though your loved one has an addiction disorder and has the symptoms after researching, because it is also best not to jump to conclusions, you can safely identify ways to help your loved one. You can talk to them and mention their behaviors and why you think that they may be struggling, and help them try to recognize these signs for themselves. After having this discussion with your loved ones, check into meetings for substance abuse or rehab if needed as well. Unfortunately, a lot of people with addiction may end up in jail where they are not treated humanely, and is another reason why there is an addiction stigma, rather than treating it like the mental illness that it is through counseling and medical treatment. So, my next suggestion is to become trained in first aid and any other training specifically regarding addiction and substance abuse, as well as becoming trained in distributing Narcan. Anything else on the internet that you can read up on that is true information and unbiased through a medical website, perhaps, can give you some information on how to help those when a substance abuse emergency arrives. So, when an emergency arises, no matter the emergency, it is 100% normal to feel scared and not know how to help or what to do, whether you are having the emergency or witnessing it. Being prepared can not only save a life, but it can decrease the pressure and anxiety when witnessing an emergency. Sometimes, though, that anxiety can bubble to the surface where you cannot remember how to help despite being trained. So, there are actually devices to help you with distributing Narcan or helping in any other way for substance abuse kind of emergencies through instructions. And there are some devices that talk to you and go through the steps effectively and efficiently with you. The important thing is to remain calm and gain composure, because freaking out could risk a life. Learn how to create boundaries with your loved one as well, so that you realize how to make sure you are not enabling your loved one with addiction. Those with the addiction can also set boundaries with the conserved loved one, as sometimes family members or friends can make their addicted loved one feel suffocated or as though they are not trusted, through not letting them leave the house or being with them every second of the day. Find out what you both need from each other and agree and compromise. It is best to calmly communicate rather than argue, which could potentially create a triggering situation. Whether you are the loved one concerned or the loved one with the addiction, please find ways to provide self-care for yourself, because the disorder affects more than just the addict. Lastly, please learn how to talk to your loved one and communicate ways to help each other get through this. Talk to the addicted loved one and ask what triggers them, so that you know how to provide that safe environment for them. Also, ask about ways where you can help that person stay safe and sober, and ways to help. And ask ways to help. Again, communicate calmly and effectively, and try to let your loved one with an addiction know that they are not alone and that you are there to support them through this. But also remember, as a loved one, you are also not alone. There are so many families that are struggling with a child, a parent, a significant other, even a friend, or a grandparent, a grandchild, anyone that is considered a loved one. There are so many families being affected by this. So, also focus on life outside of focusing on addiction, such as balancing support groups with fun activities that you typically enjoy, like walking in the park, for an example. So, as we complete our journey, I want to wish you all luck on your own individualized journeys, and hope that you can find comfort in these videos and knowing that you are not alone. Please share these videos to spread awareness and end the mental health stigma. For those of you that do watch and support my videos, thank you. It means a lot to know that someone cares about these messages, especially now, in a time where we need more love and less hate towards one another. If you would like to suggest more content for me to discuss within the podcast, or if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, or even critiques, that would be very, very helpful for me. If you want to be interviewed or know anyone that might want to be interviewed by me, for these podcasts that would also be very helpful in creating new content and getting someone's story out there. Now that we've completed our 12th journey together, let's take a sip in of some self love and exhale the stresses of life. See you next time.